During the Cold War, a time of intense competition and innovation, one Soviet scientist, Georgy Alekseyev, dared to experiment with the unthinkable, growing food using radiation. While the era was dominated by nuclear fears, Alekseyev envisioned radiation as a tool, not a threat. His groundbreaking yet controversial work led to the cultivation of abnormally large crops, some hazardous, but others surprisingly beneficial. This story delves into Alekseyev's vision, his experiments, and the long-lasting impact of his daring scientific pursuits. Chapter 1: Science Meets Survival, the Cold War Context. The Cold War was more than a political standoff. It was an era of scientific one-upmanship. The United States and the Soviet Union raced to outdo each other in fields ranging from space exploration to military technology. But behind the scenes, another battle was brewing, ensuring food security in an unpredictable world. The Soviet Union faced significant agricultural challenges. Large swathes of its arable land were inhospitable, either due to harsh climates or overuse. Coupled with the constant pressure to sustain its population and compete with the West, the USSR needed solutions, and fast. Amid this backdrop, scientists explored unconventional methods to increase crop yields, improve soil conditions, and enhance food production. Georgy Alekseyev, a physicist by training, emerged as a leading figure in this quest. His idea? To harness the power of radiation, a force often associated with destruction, for growth and nourishment. Chapter 2: Radiation, a dangerous ally. Alekseyev's interest in radiation wasn't entirely new. By the mid-20th century, researchers had discovered that controlled doses of radiation could cause genetic mutations in plants. These mutations sometimes resulted in faster growth, larger fruits, and greater resistance to pests. However, the risks were immense. Radiation could easily kill plants, destroy their DNA, or render them toxic to consume. The challenge lay in controlling the exposure and identifying beneficial mutations while avoiding catastrophic outcomes. Using state-of-the-art nuclear facilities, Alekseyev developed a technique called gamma irradiation. By exposing seeds and soil to specific doses of gamma rays, he aimed to stimulate growth and resilience in crops. The results were astonishing. Chapter 3: The supercrops. The first wave of experiments produced mixed results. Some crops withered under the radiation, their cellular structures irreparably damaged. Others, however, thrived in ways that defied expectations. Tomatoes the size of melons, wheat with stalks twice the usual height, and potatoes that could feed entire families emerged from Alekseyev's lab. These supercrops drew international attention and sparked debates about the potential of nuclear energy in agriculture. Some of the irradiated crops were entirely safe and even nutritionally superior to their conventional counterparts. For example, the gamma-irradiated wheat had higher protein content and demonstrated resistance to fungal infections. However, not all results were positive. Several crops contained elevated levels of harmful isotopes, rendering them unfit for human or animal consumption. Alekseyev and his team worked tirelessly to refine their methods, developing protocols to identify and isolate hazardous mutations while scaling up the beneficial ones. Chapter 4: The Ethical Dilemma. As Alekseyev's research progressed, it raised profound ethical questions. Was it justifiable to tamper with nature using radiation, given the potential risks? Could the benefits outweigh the long-term consequences of introducing irradiated crops into the food chain? Within the Soviet scientific community, opinions were divided. Some hailed Alekseyev as a visionary, believing his work could revolutionize agriculture and solve food shortages. Others viewed him as reckless, arguing that the dangers of radiation were too great to justify the experiments. Internationally, the work drew scrutiny as well. The West, already wary of Soviet nuclear advancements, saw Alekseyev's experiments as both a potential breakthrough and a potential threat. Chapter 5. A Global Ripple Effect. The results of Alekseyev's work weren't confined to the Soviet Union. By the 1960s, his research inspired similar experiments in the United States, Japan, and Europe. The idea of using radiation to create beneficial mutations gained traction in agricultural circles. Organizations like the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, and the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, began promoting the use of radiation for plant breeding. This led to the development of over 2,500 crop varieties worldwide, including irradiated rice, barley, and beans that are still grown today. Alekseyev's work helped establish mutation breeding as a legitimate field of study. However, the shadow of his early failures, particularly the hazardous crops, continued to haunt the practice. Chapter 6. The Dark Side of Innovation. For all its promise, Alekseyev's research had unintended consequences. In the rush to scale up production of irradiated crops, some safety measures were overlooked. Reports of health issues linked to the consumption of improperly tested crops began to surface, fueling public fears about radioactive food. The Soviet government, eager to showcase its scientific achievements, suppressed these reports, further eroding public trust. Alekseyev, once celebrated as a pioneer, found himself at the center of controversy. The backlash was swift. Funding for radiation-based agriculture dwindled, and Alekseyev's experiments were curtailed. However, his contributions were never entirely forgotten. Chapter 7. Legacy and Lessons. Today, Alekseyev's work is recognized as both groundbreaking and cautionary. It demonstrated the potential of nuclear science to solve pressing global problems, but also highlighted the dangers of rushing innovation without fully understanding its consequences. His experiments laid the groundwork for modern mutation breeding, a field that continues to produce crops resistant to climate change, pests, and diseases. However, the ethical and safety concerns he faced remain relevant. In a world grappling with food security and environmental challenges, Alekseyev's story serves as a reminder of the balance between ambition and responsibility in scientific discovery. Conclusion. Georgy Alekseyev's work was a bold gamble, born of a time when the world was willing to take extraordinary risks in pursuit of progress. His irradiated crops stand as symbols of human ingenuity, resilience, and the double-edged nature of innovation. As we continue to push the boundaries of science, his story challenges us to ask, how far are we willing to go to shape the future? Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing facts.